Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a game that's part of a series that I loved quite a bit back in my high school days. A friend of mine introduced it to me with the second game in the series that I have sitting here that I'll talk about just in a moment. Of course, this review is for the OG game that came out on my birthday in 2006. I would have been 12 years old, I believe, but I didn't get the game till many years later, probably 2010? 11, I think, was the first time I played this before the third entry came out. Anyway, this game right here is called Gears of War. When it came out, once upon a time, being kind of an action horror game, apparently it was the reason many people wanted an Xbox 360. It's an exclusive to Xbox. It still is to this day. And like I said, my friend, Jordan, many years ago, led me, he traded a game with me just for a couple of days, like a week. He wanted to play Saints Row 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And he lent me a game that I had never heard of before called Gears of War 2. This is not his copy, obviously, but I went and bought a copy of it immediately as soon as I finished his copy of the game, and I loved it so much that eventually I bought number one, which I'm talking about. These are the copies I've had since high school. And then eventually, Gears of War 3 came out, which I never completed because I did not like it. Whole bunch of privilege right there, ain't that? Then we had the fourth game in the series, which is kind of a prequel, I think is what I heard. I just bought it the other day. I thought I had a copy on Xbox One, but apparently I do not. That is Gears of War Judgment. And then we have Gears of War 4 that I just picked up about 2 weeks ago, which really stoked about this. Marcus Phoenix is back. He was not in Judgment from what I understand. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I understand. I have not bought Gears of War Tactics or Gears 5. I don't own either of them. I want to get them at some point, mainly Gears 5 because it's a story-focused game. The other one's a strategy game. I suck at strategy games. Anyway, so here I am talking about the OG action horror game, and this to me had more horror elements than 2, than 3, from what I saw of 4 and Judgment and 5 online. But this game is like a straight-out third-person shooter, and it is, for the most part, a blast. For the most part. The story is maybe 6 hours long, maybe 7, depending on how many times you die at certain points. The gameplay can be a little rough, because you don't have like a jump button, you have like a wall bouncing, I think is what fans call it, where you cling to a wall to shoot around. And I gotta tell you, I love the guns in the game. I love the main gun that Marcus is holding right here that is basically an assault rifle, but has a chainsaw on the end of it. It's fucking rad. There's nothing better than running towards your enemy, holding down the B button, which takes a little bit of time to start up the engine on the chainsaw in this game, and then pulling the right trigger, which you usually shoot with, to decimate them by tearing them in half with your chainsaw gun. It fucking rules, dude. I love it. Anyway, what is Gears of War about? Well, basically, the word Gears comes from the idea that these guys are caught up in a world war that's been around for, like, I think they said 15 years? Maybe longer? I can't remember how long this war's been going on. But everybody that are the human side, because you're fighting some kind of enemy that we don't really know much about yet. I don't want to tell you too much about it in case you haven't played these games before, but I do recommend them quite a bit. I'll get to my caveats in a moment. Everybody who's on the human side are referred to as cogs, as in C-O-G-S, cogs, like in a wheel, or gear, whatever. Gears of War. They're caught up in this kind of world war on Earth, fighting this thing that are called the Locust. And they can have different types of monstrous entities of some sort. Some are way more threatening than others. There's kind of like a king, but kind of not, that you have to fight at certain points in the game, mainly one in the finale. But they kind of have just different variations on whatever this enemy is. You kind of have the grunts who just have guns that shoot back at you, and then you have ones like this thing called a berserker that doesn't have a weapon, it's blind, but it can hear you by a sound, and this thing used to be the epitome of what I fucking hated about this game back in the day. Because you didn't know where it was going to come from unless you were paying completely close attention. This game, to me, can be way more stressful than 2 and 3. From what I remember of 3, from what I remember of 2, not having played them in over 10 years now, it's been forever since high school when I actually was obsessed with them and played them all the time. I forgot how stressful Gears of War 1 can be. It's a wonderful game. I love the horror aspects to it. I love the gothic nature of the world at this point, after all of this war. And I'm not really sure how many of these buildings got to this place of looking so gothic. They're kind of inspired by like Rome and Europe and that kind of thing, Spain even, and they're incredible. Everything is decrepit and fallen apart. It's a very washed out looking game, and I don't remember the games looking like that. I don't. But it's almost like on the border of being black and white at some points, because of the color scaling and all that. It's very, very, very strange. But we play as a man named Marcus Phoenix, voiced by John DiMaggio, who also plays Bender on Futurama. I love John DiMaggio. He's incredible. He also played the Joker on the Batman Red Hood movie. If you haven't seen that, really, really good. He's great there. John DiMaggio is a wonderful actor, but he plays this tough-as-nails war criminal guy who's been locked up as not a prisoner of war, but just like a war criminal for many years by the other humans. And I think they said the president or somebody, whoever is like leading the current human regime that's left, because they are not winning this war against the Locust. They decide to pardon every single criminal that's done anything. It doesn't matter if it was any kind of crime out there, they've been pardoned, and that includes Marcus Phoenix. So he gets out, we don't know what he did, but apparently it was pretty serious. A lot of people in the military, the COGS army, don't trust him. They think he's a terrible person, a terrible idea to even have a part of their army. But he's humongous, and he's fucking rad. He doesn't fit in with his team, but he gets along with his friend Dom. And I like Dom too, he's cool, but all of the character designs in this game look like Rescue Heroes. If you knew about Rescue Heroes back in the day when I was a kid in the 90s, then you would understand 100% that these guys look like these big, buff, roided out Macho Men versions of Rescue Heroes with the big ass feet and everything. Did you ever have those toys when you were a kid? I did. And that's what this game series has always reminded me of, even though it's very much an R-rated thing. A lot of gore, a lot of gore. If you are not a gore hound, dude, this has a lot in it, and it's fucking great. There's some driving missions in here, not really a fan of that. It's got some stuff in here that they got rid of for 2 and 3 that I think helped a lot. Helped a lot. The guns shoot okay. My favorite is the one with the chainsaw. I don't know what it's called, the model and all that. Fuck you nerds who know it. I don't know that, but I love that weapon. It's awesome. But again, the blood, man. It is a bloody game, and it's great because of that. The storytelling, though, this is really where I have my issues. I remember Gears of War being a better written game than this. I remember it being on the quality of, like, Halo Combat Evolved, which is one of my favorite games of all time. It's my favorite Halo game, as a matter of fact. It doesn't even come close. The banter amongst the 4 main guys in our COG Army group in this little battalion, or whatever you want to call Marcus Phoenix and Baird, and the one guy that was like a football player, and who else? Dom. Whatever you want to call this group, they're bickering and bantering, they're one-liners. Those are okay. I enjoy those sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. But when it comes to writing the characters, it's not really there. Not that it needs to be. It's really about Macho Men fighting some kind of possibly extraterrestrial threat, some kind of hive within the world threat, like the actual planet threat. We're not really sure what exactly these things are. The way that we handle the storytelling, though, is really not that good. And it kind of reminds me, now, in hindsight, of why I kind of eventually over time got away from video games for the last 10 years and kind of went more towards books, movies, that kind of thing, that had more storytelling. To be fair, a lot of games nowadays do have some really good storytelling, and most, I think, suck ass. But some have really good storytelling, like Grand Theft Auto, typically. Not always, but typically. Like, apparently, The Last of Us. I've never played that, but I've always heard that. I really wanted to go into this thinking it aged wonderfully. And like a movie that I recently rewatched to review for the channel, Insidious, because of the new Insidious movie, neither Gears of War or Insidious 1 have aged very well. Both are very washed out, both are very much of their time, and I gotta tell you, it kind of harmed how I enjoyed this game this time around. I still love much of it, but quite a bit of it is flawed, like heavily. Whether it be not aging properly, whether it be just the writing itself, the storytelling itself not being the best, it harms it. It harms it overall, but it's more about the experience, the tension, the scare factor, because there are jump scares in here, but there are also moments of just walking through quiet, abandoned factories in the midst of a war ground, a battleground possibly not even too far away. You don't know if anything is in this place or not. Being a third-person shooter with kind of limited controls on whether you can hide, or in this case you don't really have a jump, you have a lunge button and a lock-to-the-wall button. That's really all you have. It kind of puts you in a little bit of a frantic mode, because you don't really know how far away you can get away from something, and sometimes you just want to run away rather than just run forward and shoot. but you can't. You can't. Sometimes you need to dodge out of the way of something, and because of the design of the level, because of your lack of memory of the design of the level, or because of lack of controls or anything, you're gonna get fucked. You're gonna get fucked. That's what's gonna happen. Anyway, I love Gears of War, but I think a lot of my love, based on this game, which I always thought was inferior to Gears of War 2, by the way, I gotta tell you, I think Gears of War didn't age the way I thought it did. I hope I'm wrong. I hope when I get to Gears 2 at some point, not anytime soon, but when I do get around to it, I hope that it aged better than I remember. I hope that Gears 3 is better than I remember. I hope that overall all of these games will be better, including the ones I haven't played. I'm hoping they'll be better and that I can give you more positive reviews. But Gears of War 1 is not a complete loss. This is a cool game. It was great for its time. When Gears of War 2 came out, it really improved from what I remember on a lot of things about this game. So hold out, for it. If you haven't played that game before, but you played this one, then you're not super impressed, play Gears of War 2. Make up your mind at that point. You might like it a whole lot. It's pretty damn good from what I remember. Anyway, with all that being said, though, this is a cool war game. This is a cool third-person shooter game. It was at that time when we had Dead Space and so many things like Dead Space that were so engaging and scary and frightening. This being more of an action game, it's not as scary, but it has more scares in it than I remember from 2, 3, anything. Really cool. I really enjoy that, and John DiMaggio is great as Marcus Phoenix, even if the writing ain't the best. If I had to rate Gears of War 1 on a 5-star basis, I would probably give it, I'm going to say a 3 out of 5 stars. It's more of a positive 3 out of 5 than a negative 3 out of 5, like closer to a 2. I would say it's closer to a 4, but it's a 3 out of 5 nonetheless. I think it's really cool. The sound design is pretty great. The music is good too, but the graphics are good for their time. It looks really good. It plays well, mostly. Not always, but mostly. And there's some places that I think are completely fucking unfair with how the game plays against you. Just be prepared for that. If you haven't played Gears of War before, you're not really used to the control schemes, just be ready, because you're going to be angry. You're probably going to cuss a lot, okay? Anyway, Gears of War 1, 3 out of 5 stars for me. I recommend it highly. I recommend the series highly if you haven't played them before, even though I can't really recommend the series because I haven't played the majority of them, which is weird. Very weird. Anyway, have you played it? What do you think about it, guys? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on this game, on its sequels, all of that down in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.